Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to discuss and share my knowledge in the field of zero trust and core cybersecurity practice for modern enterprises. My name is Dr. V. Sabaresan. I'm working as an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science Engineering in St. Joseph Institute of Technology, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. First of all, straight we discuss what is the importance, like what is an introduction, and why the zero trust is required. These are things are we discuss very brief. Then followed by move on to the next slide. The first one in this introduction part, first we need to know what is that the main purpose and what is zero test and why we're going to study in this matter today and the core objective. The first event in this the rapid digital transformations like in cloud adaptation and remote works, and meanwhile the rise of the AI driven threats. And so these are the reason the enterprises can no longer rely on the traditional methods or traditional the perimeter based security models. So we need to incorporate the modern organizations must require the zero trust architecture or zero trust framework or platform. It combined with the robust cyber security. Meanwhile, the practice into that mitigate the advanced attacks. We discuss very later on different attacks, and to protect data assets and they ensure that reliance operations. These are the main purpose why we need to that the technologies are required. Next, when the why zero trust is required in a modern environment faces the increasingly the very complex and the cyber landscapes. So driven into that in the already we discussed the same technologies that cloud adaptation, the remote works, and the mobility and IoT. These are things are cornered into it the sophisticated threat uh, attacks. So the traditional the perimeter based security models are no longer sufficient. These are the reason why zero trust is required. Next, when what is the zero trust? Zero trust is a modern cyber tech security mechanism. So the mainly used to the main the principle of never trust and always verify. So it's comes under that one example. If the no user or device or devices is incorrectly trusted. So meanwhile, each and every the devices entered into the network need to verify each and every time, and only plan to give are going to give required access and minimum access the necessary the privileges for the users in the every time. So here based on this thing, the every user device or application or connection must be consecutively authenticated or consecutively authorized or consecutively monitored regardless whether they in and outside the network. Each and every time your devices already it's a previous trusted devices also re-enter the network, and the time also we need to check whether all security the principles. These are the what is zero trust. The next event why matters today. So here is an explosive growth based on that the different kind of attacks like an ransomware and supply chain. Based on that, the rapid mitigations and a cloud cyber infrastructures. Based on this, the rise of the remote, the bring your own devices environment, the increase the compliances and the regulatory requirements. So the attackers are exploiting the identity credentials later the movement. These are the things are why these things are required. The next one is what's the core, the main objective. So based on that, the no trust, we need to build the reliant, the identify driven, the adaptive security the mixture that reduces the surface sorry, attack surfaces. So based on this technique, we need to limit some impacts of the cyber attacks, or we will going to enhance the enterprise of the cyber technologies. The next event, what is the main, the core, the principles of zero trust. So zero trust, already I'll discuss, is a modern security paradigm. We're going to build an idea of never trust and always verify. So in a zero trust model, the no user devices or system or component inside or outside network is integrally trusted. So based on that, the first event we discussed that the verify exploiting. Here, nothing, the no devices is trusted as in by default. So here, each and every devices can access the guaranteed only the consecutive verification of the user identity, and we're going to check that device posture and location and what kind of applications. Next event, what are the um, how can I say that profile of the users or risk profile and behavior patterns. These are the based on patterns we are going to verify that is are involved in that is verify explicitly. The next event, for example, if the even employee logs from that within that corporate networks, even though we need to check whether again the identify the validations and check that a lot of the compliance checks. These are the example of the verify explicit. Even a employee enter on the network based on the corporate network. Meanwhile, we need to check whether all those things what we discussed in the previous one. The next one is use at least privilege access. Here, sorry, here, use at least when privilege access, provide the user systems only within a minimum access necessary. So, if the user what the authentication privilege required, are going to provide as a minimum what are things the users can require. So, no need to provide all the privilege access to the users. Instead of that, only going to provide what is the requirement of user. Based on that, we're going to allocate that privileges. For example, we're going to allocate the privileges are based on their role of the person, or we need to restrict within time frame only the users can use in these networks. So just a simple access as just in time access. The next event, just enough access. Only what kind of access the users can require, only allocate such time is more than enough. Followed by already we explained, we're going to give that access within that timeline or privileges. Within timeline only can access. Once the timelines are exit, the privileges are it can be revoked. Based on that, the thing, the main benefit of this the principle, the reduce that the accountant or the person who access the network, it's not compromised. The next one, assume branch. Here, operate as an the environment is already compromised. Already, the previous one is not compromised. Here, already the environment is already compromised. The compromise is these two already have an attacks. Here, we're going to give that micro segmentation of networks. Here, we're going to have the strong logging mechanism or elementary, the rapid detection of rapid detection and their response. Here, have any threat can have detected if having the proper containment architecture to overcome this. Here, if an attacker, the example here in this based on this principle, if the any attacker can enter, the must be unable to move laterally. If the, any attackers can enter in the networks, maybe you'll find there's some the insects are detected, followed by the attacks are not able to do anything. That is the ultimate aim of this uh, principle. The next event, micro segment of networks. So here, the instead of that in a flat network where the attackers can roam freely, here the zero trust requires the breaking the network into that small, the isolated zones. For example, if the any attackers can enter into that networks, followed by you can detect it by yourself, then networks are partitioned into the small the piece of piece. So the attackers are separate from the development, so not able to enter in attacks in all kind of things. So here the outcome of this, the core principle for the exposure is limited and attacks are localized. Sorry. Next event, you have any query? As of now, you have any queries, students or participants? So the next we move on to the next, the principles of zero trust. Here the consecutive continues the monitoring and analysis. Here the zero trust is not in one-time setup. It requires the real-time observations and the risk scoring. So here you're going to check whether what is that user behavior analytics, and you're going to involve here the AL, yeah, artificial intelligence and machine learning, yeah, driven anomaly detections, and we're going to frequently going to check real time the logging. What is the logging of the each and every user who enter into the networks. So here the main purpose of this the principle to detect suspicious activity immediately. The next one is the secure every endpoint. So here each and every devices can be access network must be verified and followed by it enter into the network. For example, check the, devices like in laptop or desktop or mobile phones or IoT devices or cloud workloads or example of any kind of the containers. You must require the health checks and you're going to detect the endpoint detection and you're going to provide a proper the response, and certify based authentication also required in this principle. The next one we move on to the next principle, encrypt everything. So here the encrypt data is transmit and at the test it's ensure even it is interrupted and it can be converted into remaining things are unusable if the user if the any attacker can enter into the networks. If you're find something, if they need abnormal activity are going to encrypt all remaining data. So followed by the data are unusable by in the end of the attackers. The next event here we're going to include disk level encryptions and database encryption. And if there is any client cloud kind of data, you're going to have the cloud native encryption controls. These are things are included in this the principle. The next event identity is the new perimeter. Here, the zero trust are shifted to security focus from the network boundaries. Here, who can access and how it's required. For example, you're going to provide a strong identity governance, and you're going to have a passwordless authentication. Simple here, you haven't going to fix the trust level in the combinations of the identity and devices and the context. The next event, the automotive. Here, zero trust environments are used automations to enforce some policies. Here, the policies are to involve into the very quickly and consecutively across the organization. Here, uh, automated privilege evaluations are required. If automated incidents response, these are things are maybe included in this the last principles of automations. Next, move on to this next event. What are the different trust, sorry, zero trust architecture layers are available? So now move on to the next slide. Here, the comprehensive zero trust architecture consists of multiple interconnected layers. Each layers are enforcing the core zero trust principles. Simple is going to verify or explicitly and the least privilege and assumes a branch. What we discussed in a previous, that core principles are implemented with help of that the interconnected the core layers. The architecture simple they ensures the continuous authentication and authorization and monitoring across the users, the devices, and the workloads and data. So the first we move on to that the brief discussion on the first layer, the IDF layer. Here you're going to focus on the user access and the governance. The next event, what are the key in this layer ensures that only the authenticated and authorized users can access the resources from that in enterprise. The next one, what are the key elements? Here, identify governance and administrations. You're going to here provide the privilege access management, and here going to involve a multi-factor authentication, and each and every time the persons or users can access that enterprise resources. Here, the main objective of the first organization layers here, no trust, no users, validate, identify, and consecutively. We're going to validate the users are consecutively. The next one is device layer. Here, all the devices are connected to that enterprise must be verified, and if the LT and the compliant users only can allowed into that in network. Here are going to involve the endpoint deductions and resources. If the any devices have it in a mobile, you're going to have a proper management to handle that mobile devices. Here also check that the health of the devices. Very simple, we're going to check that device health checks and hardware-based security mechanism. For example, here also you have an the IoT oriented devices. Also, you have a proper set of authentications required in this device layer. Simple, you're going to device what kind of devices are may involve in this the organizations, and what kind of quality, what kind of the checks are may be available. The next one, the main objective of this the layer are only secure and compliant devices are allowed to access. The next one, network layer. So here the network layer, what are the main, the key elements? Simply, you're going to identify driven networks. So here, what are the key elements? Since you're going to involve checks in the form of the firewalls and internet service protocols and zero trust networks can access, and you're going to provide different kind of VPN alternate. Each and every time you're going to provide a different kind of the alternative VPNs. The next event, the main purpose of this network layer, to minimize the lateral movement of the limit attacks. Next one, the application layer. The application layer is going to provide the secure application access. While any of the users can enter networks, how do you provide the secure application access? Here we're going to control the how the users can interact with the applications, and where the applications are hosted. Here the key element, the key process are involved. Here the consecutive access evaluations, secure service to service communication, identify our a proxy of the access of individual apps. Are going to provide and monitor what is the API gateway within strong automations. The main objective of this layer is going to provide applications are accessed through verified and controlled channels. That's the main ultimate aim of this application layer. So, it's going to provide users can communicate the application within some proper controlled authenticated channels. The next one is data layer. Here, data can be protected when the resides. For example, here going to provide that data classifications and the labelings, encrypts all set of data. If you're going to avoid provide the mechanisms to any kind of data losses, and risk management also involved here. The main ultimate aim of this um, data layer that data layer sense, the main thing is you're going to enforce the zero trust directly in the at the data level. Next one is the visibilities and analytics layer. Here going to provide a consecutive monitors. It's going to essentials to zero trust operations. Here, the key elements is automated anomaly detections. Next one, real time, the telemetry from the users and devices and app. Here also going to provide a threat intelligence integrations. Here also you analysis the users and entity behavior analytics also may involve. The main purpose of this the visibility analytics is going to detect and analysis and um, respond to the abnormal behaviors. If you find any abnormal activities are available, you're going to detect, analysis, and response what kind of the behaviors from that in attackers end. The next one is the automations. Here, we're going to enforce the zero trust, the policy, the consistently across all layers. Each and every layers have we're going to provide some policy mechanism. In this last layer, we're going to provide a policy engine and auto recommendations. The main objective of this layer to enforce the zero trust deductions are automatically and uniformly. Move on to the next slide. Once again, the next one. What are the core cyber security practices are available in this the core interfaces? The first one here, the identify and access the management. So in this, the first practices can involve ensures only the right people can access the right resources at the right time. So ultimate aim of the who the peoples are can access in this organizations, the right people can access the right data at the right time. So here the key, the main practice is yes, strong password policies, going to check the multi-factor authentications, a role-based access controls, and identify the lifecycle management, and are going to provide a proper privileged access management to the which users can involve in this the network. Next one is why this practice is important. So to identify is a new security parameters are available and how you're going to involve into that compromised credentials. So the next one is the security, network security and micro segmentations. Here limit how far attackers can involve into the networks. Here the key practices are firewall segmentations and zero trust access controls, and we're going to give the policies to what kind of systems may involve in the security access control. And meanwhile, micro segmentations are using that some software defined networkings may be involved, and you're going to modernize and change that VPN in each and every time, every entry. So based on this, the practices are going to involve reduce this the radius of durations of instructions. The next one is the endpoint security. Here we're going to provide or protect that individual devices. Simple here, going to provide this simple the end-to-end connection in the sense simple, nothing but the devices. Here we're going to provide the devices like laptops, servers, and smartphones and IoT devices. Here are going to find and detection and response of endpoint, and here going to provide what is it the peripheral control things are maybe involved. And here going to if the any vulnerability attacks are happening since before that is going to make that policies of the vulnerabilities management, followed by here why these things are very important in the sense endpoints are the still number one, the initial attackers are maybe involved different kind of attackers like some malwares and ransomwares. So it's a number one entry point to attackers can involve in these organizations. So in the next event, a cloud security and governance. Here we're going to ensure that the use of the cloud patterns. For example, if anyone can enter the networks via some cloud practices. So here the key once again. Here we're going to ensure that the safe use of the cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and GCP. Here the cloud, the main practices of here key practices since cloud security basis management is available. Next one, secure access service edges to be provided. Here we're going to provide a proper workload protections for the another access not involved in this the platforms, and you're going to provide uh, more high privilege who's are involved into in cloud data, and it's going to provide some security from in the end of the API, and why these practices are involved in this for the enterprises in the sense a cloud micro segments are amounting to that 60% of the cloud branches are maybe available in this cloud micro sorry misconfirmations. So it's very important. The next one is data protections and encryption. Here we're going to provide provide the safeguard to entire the interface the sensitive data. Here we're going to provide the mechanisms like our key practices like. So already we discussed the classic data classifications and labeling, and if the any data may be in the form of loss, we're going to prevent in before that, and it's going to provide some proper backup or recovery mechanism, and you're going to provide that encryptions in this transist and the rest. So and why important if the data is attackers, it's an ultimate target. So you're going to use the practices for the enterprises in the under the process of zero trust. The next one, here we're going to provide the next predecessor sense application security. Here we're going to prevent a vulnerable in the web and mobile access. So you're going to provide a proper security coding practices, and you're going to provide the tests are in based on that your requirement. It can be a static or dynamic, and you're going to provide the API security tests, and you're going to provide some DevOps integrations here. And here you have the testing in both internal and external devices while entering the networks. And based on this, the practices are the why the application security practices are important in the sense the modern actors are targets are API. So it's important. The next one is security monitoring. Here is to provide the visibilities of the early detections. Here we're going to provide that if the any incidents response in a playbooks. So here average branch detections uh, time within some particular days. The next one is the governance and the risk compliances. Here, they ensure that alignment with mandates, the laws, and the business goals. Here, we're going to provide a proper security policies and standards. The next one, the risk assessment, and we have the frequent the internal audits and vendor risk management. These are the practices are involved in this the governance and risk compliances. The next one is why it is important. Yeah, organization must provide or they secure and just not assume in this end. So next one is the security awareness and the human firewall. So definitely we're going to strengthen in this which one is the weakest link. So here the cyber hygiene trainings are involved, and you're going to have the role-based security trainings. And if the any insiders are available in this net, you have a proper threat awareness before that. So here the why the security awareness is important is most of the human errors are cased into 85% of the branches. So the next one is the business consecutive incidents and response. Here the main thing is the minimize the downtime and loss during attacks. If the any attacks have happened on the time you downtime and the loss of data are minimized with help of this the principles. Here you have a proper incident response plan and disaster recovery. And if the any attacks are happening, you have a proper mechanisms to recover data. Why these practices are more important? You have a fast recovery to reduce and impact and costs. Now on to the next event. What are the benefits implementing a zero trust? Here, the first one is the stronger security postures. Here, the zero trust significantly reduce the risk of the breaches by conforcing. Here, you have a proper consecutive verifications and the least privilege access to the users and micro segmentations and the identified device which are into the proper context text. The main outcome of these benefit to attackers have an attackers haven't the fewer opportunities to gain to entry. The next one is to reduce lateral movement. Even the attackers are compromised, yeah, one devices or some confidentials, so they cannot move freely into the networks. The main outcome of this benefit to limit the spread of a malware and insider misuse. The next one, minimize the security. Sorry, minimize attack surface. The next, this one is the zero trust hides the internal applications. So and the services begin this identity and aware some proper policies. The main outcome of this benefit is the fever, the exposed asset, and the fever attackers opportunities. Next event, the modernize and strengthens access control. So these benefits are based on the user identity, the device health check and location, the time and risk score and behavior analytics of the users. The main outcome of this benefits are going to provide the access is precise and dynamic and contest aware. The next one is better governance and compliances. Here going to provide fix the proper standard. So he provided a proper standard and some principles to overcome that the proper governance and appliances. Here, the main outcome is based on this proper guidelines and the principles. Very easy to make a audit and low compliance risk and improve a data deductions. The next event, the improved visibility and monitoring. Here, we're going to provide a zero trust requires a continuous logging check, a real-time analysis, and real-time alerts. The main outcome of this benefits the clear visibilities into that user sections and what is the exact the devices, the postures, and what are the workloads are monitoring into that in organizations. The next one is a reduced impact credentials and compromise. Here the since the 0 trust never assume trust and leaked or stolen confidential. So do not automatically grant the access in by default. So here the main outcome of this benefits are going to protect against the phishings and the frequent the password reuses and brute force from the brute force attacks. Here, next one is enhanced protections for remote work. Here, the zero trust enables secure access regardless of a location and devices, and meanwhile the network. Here, what's the main outcome of this benefits to strong security even in this environment or hybrid or in the environment of remote. The next event support cloud and multi cloud security. Here we are going to provide the zero trust integrates involves a different cloud based applications or platform like AWS and Azure and the Google Cloud. The main outcome of this benefits identify the security across distributed cloud resources. The next event, the faster incident response, reduced branch cost. Here, we have a proper and better segmentations and monitoring and validations are involved. The main outcome of this benefits are a faster detection, and the quicker containment, and the low recurring goals, and reduce some business interruptions. The next one is the next benefit is the aligned security with the business agility. Here, zero trust involves a faster onboarding and secure in digital transformations and scalability for in this modern applications. The main outcome of this benefits security becomes a business enables are not in obstacles. Next one, I plan to give some the case studies are where the previous the attacks are happen in this modern enterprises. My screen is still visible. Anyone can acknowledge my screen is visible. Hello, hello. Anyone can acknowledge my screen is visible. Okay. I plan four case studies from that in industry implementations. The first when we move on to that in Google Beyond Crop model. So here we have a detailed explanation and discussion on how and what kind of the attacks are happen in this model, and how they involve the concept of zero trust implementations. First move on to that in first when the Google Beyond Crop model. The first when Google created is Beyond Crop model after the 2009 the Aurora cyber attacks. It considered the world's first large-scale zero trust implementations. Here they provide no traditional VPNs. So each and every time VPNs are changed the frequently, and here we're going to provide access based on security status and the user identity and contest. Next event here we're going to provide each and every request is check whether authorized or unauthorized based on that generalized the policy engine. Next one you have an consecutive device device inventory checks. So each and every devices can enter into that in organization. We're going to check, and meanwhile the data are moved into it in proper inventory. The main benefit of this beyond crop model, a highly scalable for that in global workspace, and limited networks based trust, and allow the employees to work securely from anywhere. Yeah, move on to the next event, Microsoft Zero Trust Journey. So the Microsoft adapted Zero Trust across Azure and Microsoft 365, and it is internal operations. Here, the first to identify first security using the Azure AD, or shortly known as the Entra ID, and you have the consecutive conditional access policies, and it's going to involve that Defender and Sentinel SIM for the analytics, and it's going to involve micro segmentations in this centers, and you have different the various continuous access evaluation are each and every time of the authentication event, and the main highlight of this Microsoft Zero Trust, the strong integration of identity with help of the end-to-end endpoint, meanwhile endpoint to cloud, and going to provide high data security. And we have a defense in depth model map and going to involve the zero trust principles. And meanwhile, here industry reference architectures are widely adopted by these enterprises. The next when we move on, what is the need and why they involve zero trust adoption in this banking and finance sectors. The first event, the why the financial sectors and services needs zero trust. So in financial sectors or banking sectors are highly targeted by this industry from the in the attackers end. So here you have an involved the most strict compliance requirements and high value transactions and the sensitive data. And how here going to involve the zero trust implementations in this field of the banking and financial sectors. The first one will involve a micro segmentation between your payment statements. So meanwhile, you have an involved SIFT networks and core banking, and you're going to provide a strong uh, privilege accounts, and you're going to involve the behavior analytics to detect frauds, and he provide or involve the mechanism to protect remote banking employees from that in outside vendors, and here also provide the implementation of the security workloads for the customers financial data. The main the result or ultimate aim of this zero trust implementations by Microsoft, banks have reduced their fraud exposure and insider risk, and in the main thing is the impact of ransomware. Next, when how the zero trust are involved in this healthcare sectors. So here, what are the challenges faced in healthcare? Then move on to what are the different use cases of zero trust. The first event, first challenge is you have an legacy systems. So the systems are in more costlier and going to protect that the uses the confidential records, and a medical field involved the lot of IoT devices, and data are in most sensitive data of sensitive patient data, and ransomware is targeting the hospitals. So these are the reasons the why the zero trust are involved in banking sector, and we discuss some a few use cases. The first one use case is how to identify based access for that doctors and staff and external specialist. The next one is going to give a proper device trust checks for the medical equipment, and involve micro segmentations to isolate a different the large volume of the high the pre-trace systems. Next one is going to give the encryption for patient record transfers. The next one to automate a real-time anomaly behavior alerts. These are the key use cases are going to involve the field of the health sector. The next one, what is the benefits of that zero trust are involved in this the medical field. The first one is going to provide that the main the confidential data in this the patient's data. Next one to reduces to downtime in this any kind of cyber attacks. The next one to ensure that in compliances and devices in this in the field of health sector. So participants who have any queries, so I completed all of my slides. If there is any queries, if you are asking, please ask to me.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Sure, we have some questions from participant
If
already read
possible,
in the
if
Zoom
you
chat.
ask them, turn on the mics and ask the query, or if possible, comfortable, you can chat, post the queries in the chat box.
Yeah, already read in the Zoom chat.
Okay, already received one query from the Abdul. Um, so, can I answer for that query?
Yes, yes, of course.
So the Abdul asking, may ask what skills cybersecurity professionals must to develop and support trust initiatives in a model digital enterprises. Right? This is correct questions. Correct.
Yes,
So the main things are if you're involving in this security in the field of zero trust, you're going to involve all kind of different technologies like what is that in main thing is the end-to-end devices. For example, you're going to learn what kind of devices are involved in this field, and maximum nowadays we going to store the data in the form of in cloud, so you have some wide knowledge in the field of cloud computing, meanwhile the cloud securities, and how to prevent the data from that in if the any attacks are happen. uh, if possible, you can share the next questions, ma'am. Meanwhile, if the anything you're going to automate in this field, you're going to have some the programmatic a proper scripting knowledge. For example, if you have an maybe in going to make a program for an automated the analysis. If then automated insect analysis, definitely you have some proper stuff knowledges in the field of the AA and ML. So these are the key principles. These are the key fields you have and knowledge while entering into this field.
yeah, and for our participant, if you have any question for the speaker, please add them to the chat or you can raise your hand.
No, one second.
Yeah, we have one question again, sure, from participant. Hello?
So sorry, unfortunately, I left the meeting. Guys, you have any queries?
Two question again.
Participants, you have any queries? If you're comfortable, then share your questions in the chat window also.
Already read in the Zoom chat, sure.
One second, one second.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah, could you please explain the core principle of zero trust and how enterprise can practically implement them in complex digital ecosystem? Thank you.
If possible, share the question in the chat window for easy understanding.
Already read in the Zoom chat.
One second, I'll check and wait back. So, okay. So, if you're asking the question is how to implement cybersecurity in a remote, right, ma'am? Or how to involve in this local infrastructure, or how we use it for in a training. So you haven't the cyber security, the best practices in this remote environment. First, you know your organization's policies. Move on to that. How you're going to use it. Which kind of devices are approved in your organization? For example, you only have in some limited kind of organizations. The next one, how you know how you to change, so how you to use the UPN necessary, and what kind of God devices. I mention is here God devices in the sense what kind of devices you are going to check that in protocols. How you're going to check the devices. I mentioned this, these devices are in the God devices and connected only devices into in this trusted networks or in this trusted cellular or Wi-Fi connections, and frequently you're going to upgrade your routers, or for example, if you have any firewall the softwares, and you're going to provide some kind of the best practices are involved in this environment. So these are the key things. I think, shall I match your questions? And if the any leverage available in this connectivity, first you're going to maximize what is that available access with operated hardware and services. Ma'am, any other questions, ma'am?
I guess no one else asking again, sure?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay, I guess no one else asking again. And before I go to Stephen, for all participants, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the count of three for documentation. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for your cooperation. Finally, we come to the end of visiting lecture today. We would like to thank you for Dr. Sabaresan for the wonderful information and sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for all participants. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future with ST Joseph College Engineering. The visiting lecture for today and here. Hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you so much for your opportunity, Sha.